In this video, we're going to look at the midpoint and distance formulas. So yes, you can memorize that. Looks kind of scary, but it comes from the Pythagorean theorem that most people remember. When you had a right triangle, you learned ABC, and you learned a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So c is the length of the hypotenuse, and you could solve that by taking the square root of both sides. You don't need the plus or minus because this is a true distance. Well, this looks similar to that formula. How'd that come about? Well, let's say I had 2 points. How about this point? Negative 1, 4, and this point 2, negative 2. And I want to find the distance between those 2 points. Well, you can create a right triangle and use the Pythagorean theorem. So if I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units, 1, 2, 3, then I know that 6 squared plus 3 squared is going to be my distance. So I'm going to call that d, and I'm going to square it. So that's going to be 36 plus 9, which is 45. And then take the square root, and I don't have to worry about plus or minus because it's a distance. And so the square root of 45 simplified would be 3 times the square root of 5. Would I get that same answer using this distance formula? Yes, I would. So I'd have d equals the square root of the difference of the x values. So I have negative 1 and 2. And you can subtract in either order, just be consistent. So if I have 2 minus a negative 1 and squared, and then I have my difference of my y. Since I did 2 first, I'm going to do negative 2 first. So I'd have the distance equals the square root. That's going to be 3 squared. That's going to be negative 6 squared, which is 36. So 9 plus 36 is 45, and I get exactly the same answer. So you can find the distance by drawing it out on a grid, or you can memorize the formula. But it is just the Pythagorean theorem. So if I find the distance between these 2 points, again, you can subtract your x values, and then you need to subtract your y values. It doesn't matter what order you subtract, just stay consistent. So I have 3 squared. That's negative 4 squared. So that's 9 plus 16, which is 25, which is 5. Nice and easy. And again, no plus or minus because it's a distance. Let's just practice that one more time, just so you're familiar. So you have negative 1 minus 3 squared, and 4 minus a minus 2 squared. So that's negative 4 squared, which is 16. That's going to be 6 squared, which is 36. Add those together, that's 52. Remember, we need to simplify that. And so I just kind of divide. I know it's even. That's 26. That's 13. So I know I have 2 times 13. So that's 2 times the square root of 13. So yes, you do need to simplify your square roots. Please don't give me any decimals. So that's your distance formula. Now what about your midpoint formula? Well, again, pretty easy. It's just the average. If you have, let's say, a 90 on a test and 100 on the test, and you want the average, wouldn't you add them together and divide by 2? And you would get 95, which would be the middle of those two numbers. And that's exactly what you're doing about the midpoint. Keep in mind, we're adding where the distance formula was subtracting. So be careful. All right? So I want the midpoint. So I'm going to take my x values and add them together and divide by 2. I'm going to take my y values, add them together, and divide by 2. And it's a point. So that's why I have these commas. This is my x, this is my y. So let's see, that's negative 10 divided by 2. That's 5 divided by 2. Reducing, and I'm just going to leave that as a fraction. And you kind of just want to see it visually. So let's see, just a sketch. So -2, -1 would be about there. And let's see, -8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, up 6, way up here. Oops, didn't leave myself a long ways. And there's my segment. So where would -5 be? 1, 2, 3, 4, -5 and up 2.5. So just sketching, I think you can see it's about the middle. If I had real graph paper, it would be exact spot on.